everyone, and happy Friday. If you're in the Midwest like me, it's still kind of the morning time, but if you're on the East Coast, it's afternoon. So I hope you guys are enjoying your lunch. Welcome to another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing, the video broadcast series that showcases the powerful women in engineering and manufacturing from the shop floor all the way to the C-suite. This is episode 130, which is crazy, and it is sponsored by ProShop ERP, who help machine shops increase their efficiency. So please stay tuned after this episode because we have a great video from them to show all of you. Today's guest is Dr. Donna Marino. Hello, Donna. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Megan. Thank you for having me on your show today. And I don't know if you noticed, but the episode is 130, right? 13
Yeah.
0. And Friday the 13th. So I think that's a good omen.
I didn't even realize that. That's kind of cuckoo that all lines up. That's crazy. Right? But I'm not a very suspicious person. I have some suspicions, but Friday the 13th has not been one. I think it's because I have an older sister who was born on July 13th, and sometimes her birthday falls on it. So it's not been too crazy for us. But I do want to give you a chance to kind of explain your background, because you're not necessarily in manufacturing. You're more into psychology, but you do help leaders, especially women leaders, and we'll get into all of that later on. But can you provide us kind of a background of yourself and focus on, how you got involved with psychology and what it was that attracted you to it, and then explain how your journey led you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I know my route is really different than a lot of other people. And I am a clinical psychologist, but I work in executive coaching for family businesses and for women leaders. And it's really turned into all manufacturing businesses, and I love it. So early in my career, I would have never thought that I would end up here. I've always been fascinated by what motivates people, why they do the things they do, what's underneath it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a traditional therapy practice for a lot of years, and then focused more on business and growing business, and then kind of slid into this. And it happened really, another executive referred someone to me who was an executive in manufacturing. And I discovered that I just loved it. He brought me in to start working with succession and working with the leadership team to grow them. And I'm very, very family oriented to begin with, but also I grew up in a blue collar home. My dad is an electrician, or was an electrician in New York City, and so my grandfather was, and he worked on the Verrazano Bridge when it was built, and then my dad on the World Trade Center, and then my brother did the scoreboard at Yankee Stadium. And
wow.
Yeah, so cool, right? And I've always been so proud of that history, and I've always really been into like how things work. And I just find the manufacturing industry brings so much of who I am and my interests all together.
Yeah.
And I love the culture of manufacturing. Just people are down to earth, they're hardworking, they're just really dedicated to what they do, and it's not a lot of game playing. People are direct, and I just love that, and it really goes back to my roots.
That's awesome. They're like one of my favorite things too about individuals in engineering and manufacturing is they're very resilient and able to adapt to situations as well too. But in terms of like psychology, there are situations where, just fairly recently from my memory, mental health was not really talked a lot about. And, I want to say maybe 5-6 years ago, I had a manager who brought up for the first time within my experience in engineering manufacturing she was like, if you need a mental health day to just go and unwind and kind of reset yourself, feel free to tell me that. I won't ask any questions. And it kind of took me back because I was just like, this is not normal in this industry. Like nobody's ever told me I could take a mental health day. But it was great to hear that. I do want to dive in a little bit too about what it is about manufacturers in your field that really make it a good marriage. So like, how are you helping companies really with executive coaching, with leadership, with emotional intelligence and imposter syndrome? How is being a psychology focused field good for working with manufacturers?
Yeah. I mean, I think all of business is really psychology, right? It's about relationship building. If you're a leader, you've got to understand your employees. You have to be able to put yourself in their shoes, understand their reactions, and
Mm-hmm.
understand how and why we're reacting to someone or a situation the way we do. Um, uh,
Yeah.
and then, specifically with women, I work a lot on confidence, imposter syndrome, speaking up, getting out of the people pleasing and learning to set boundaries and say no. The good part is that women are naturally, it's just the truth, nothing against men, naturally have higher emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And through psychology research, we've discovered that that is very key in leadership. And one of the
Interesting.
things I really talk about to my women leaders is to bring what it means to be a woman to the table, because when we have diversity at the table, diversity of thought and perspective, we grow more, we innovate more, and
Mm-hmm.
have more creativity. If everyone's just patting themselves on the back and agreeing, we actually don't move forward. And if for manufacturing, it really is important to innovate. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, really working with women to learn how to lead like women and not just mimic the male leaders that they see.
Right. Well, we have some comments real quick that I want to get through too, because I don't want to get too far into the interview without recognizing who's tuning in. So we have Angela. She said,
Absolutely.
"Good morning from Houston." And then we have Greg. "Good morning from Madison, Wisconsin." Hi, Angela. He's saying hi to Angela too. And they're talking back and forth to each other. And then Greg said, "It should be normal in any industry." Right. I think we should have some
Mhm.
sort of focus on mental health as well
Yeah.
as how to have crucial conversations with one another so things don't get heated. So I'll ask you some
Yeah.
questions on that where we can focus. And then Will Healy, totally, when I managed people back in the day, I really tried to encourage a number of employees one-on-one to use their EAP benefit and talk to someone and figure out how to prioritize mental health. And I think that's a
That's
really good
awesome.
idea too. And I think too, if someone just says, "Hey, I'm sick today," or I have an appointment, we don't really necessarily need all the details. Just let them take that day. If they have that day in their
Mhm.
benefits program, just let them take the day. Like,
Mhm.
don't ask too many questions because sometimes they don't want to talk about it. Um, I am interested in how, with your coaching process, do you have like best tips or best practices for both men and women working together? Because in a male dominated industry, like some of the things, and if there's any other women listening in on this, there's sometimes we're told, this is the way it's always been done. You have to have thick skin, or
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
taking that out of context, you're over exaggerating it. Sometimes we're told that how we're feeling is not the way that we should be feeling because we're either being too sensitive or too emotional. So, do you have best practices when you're working with teams on how to get each group to listen to one another and like move forward in a successful way?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think first, before entering the conversation even, think about, What is it you want to get out of this conversation? What's the outcome you want? What do you want for the other person? What do you hope they gain from the conversation? And
Mhm.
then what do you hope for the relationship, for your relationship together? So before even tackling it, especially if emotions are high, you really need to pause.
Mhm.
And I want to give credit. This some of this that I'm talking about does come from the book Crucial Conversations. So I
I
just
love that book.
yeah, it's fantastic. I recommend everyone to read it, and especially if you're a leader to read that.
Mhm.
The other piece is entering the conversation with mutual respect and a mutual purpose. You know, what's the common ground here? We want to work better together. When we work better together, the work culture is better, our product is better, we're more efficient, all of these things, right? So entering with that, but then also enter with assumption of good intent, right? That things are coming from good intent, and that I sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. I apologize,
No,
everyone.
you're totally fine. It's an exciting topic, so
Yeah,
no worries.
it's like I get and my mind goes really fast sometimes. But enter it with curiosity, right? So trying to leave some assumptions by the door and maybe asking the person, "Can I ask you what you meant by that comment? You know, this is the way I took it, and I don't know if that's what you intended."
Mhm.
Right? And so being curious about it. Men and women do have a tendency to communicate differently. I have 2 older brothers, right? I am used to being razzed and, like, the jokes and the put downs, but they're made in, like, sort of good nature, and sometimes they do sting a little too much, and you're like, that one kinda crossed the line," and
Yeah.
and it's okay to let people know that. And I recently was in a meeting with a manufacturing team, and myself and one other executive were the only women in the room. And we were working on some problems together, and I was facilitating that. And I noticed that some of the banter or the comments to the woman in the room, I could see them as being a little hurtful or sort of minimizing of her. Um,
Mhm.
and I saw that, but I also thought about how they all interact with each other as well, and how much, that razzing and everything happens. They're very comfortable and casual. Um, and then it was just really interesting to think about. I saw this, I took it this way. I was concerned
Mhm.
for her, and she was very quiet throughout the whole meeting. So another concern, right? She hardly said anything. And then sort of when she did, there were sort of some of these comments. And I spoke to one of the men who was in the group afterwards and said, "What did you think of this? Because I kind of took it this way, but I'm not sure if it was meant that way."
Mhm.
And the male n didn't see my perspective at all. That not that he wouldn't, or but that was not how he viewed it at all, and
Right.
not what he thought the intent was, and that thought would have never crossed his mind, right? So having the conversation just opens it up to possibility, right? To empathy, to that emotional intelligence. It could all be good natured, but that doesn't mean we don't sometimes step on someone's toes. But if
Right.
we as women don't tell them, then that you can't fix something you don't know is wrong, right?
Right. Well, and that's why one of the things too that I try to emphasize too, it's important to connect with some of our male allies and kind of give them direction too, because sometimes we need their mentorship or their
Mhm.
encouragement to be that voice in their room. So I try to emphasize the importance of, men also encouraging us and pulling us into the conversation, because if we are the shy types, we're not going to say anything. And I'm not a recovering introvert. I should make a claim on that. I'm still an introvert. Like, it's still hard for me to voice my opinion in crowded
Mhm.
rooms. This whole process has helped me through that. But there's a lot of introverts in engineering and manufacturing, and sometimes you just have to like give them that little nudge.
Yes. Yes.
But
Oh, for sure. One of the things I do, and I encourage all male allies to do this too, to help their women, is start observing the body language. And when you notice a woman sort of like sit back or make a face, but then close her lips or things like that, you will see, right? You can see when a thought zips across somebody's head and they're holding back. Call it out, say, hey, Megan, you look like you wanted to say something there. I'm curious what your thoughts are. I'm curious what your ideas are.
Mhm.
Calling that out, just offering them an opportunity, an opening. Because the other thing is, men are more comfortable interrupting than women are. Women are really trained to hold back, to wait till someone's finished. I get interrupted and talked over a lot, even in my own house, because I listen a lot and I wait for this pause. And by the time I'm ready to jump in, because I feel the pause is long enough that someone's done talking, it's been, somebody's already jumped in, or I just started and they jump in. And my husband tells me all the time, you pause too long. But it's these differences in communication and cultural expectations. And it's a way that we've all been raised, and
Right.
it's in the air sort of as a culture. And so it all really starts by observing it and calling it out. And it doesn't have to be called out in an aggressive way.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. I agree with that. Greg was saying, hold on, your comments not showing up. The humor and the razzing can be a defensive mechanism to shield yourself from risking a real connection.
Mm,
That's true. I agree with
yeah.
that. And then Angela said this is really good information, and women can do that for other women as well.
Oh,
100%.
absolutely.
But and Angela is a project manager, so I'm sure she's been part of a ton of conversations where people just get really excited or really like
Mhm.
passionate about what they're talking about. But I've been in so many meetings where I'm one of few women or the only woman, and it is really hard to get a word in edgewise. And
Yeah.
it's not that they're purposely trying to cut you off. It's just the excitement and the passion that goes into what they're trying to create or
Mhm.
figure out. They
Mhm.
just and men are so
Yeah.
naturally competitive with one another too that like it's just it's
Yeah.
fun but annoying at
Yeah.
the same time. At the same time.
Absolutely. And I really have learned to I I bring my finger up, right? I do this and I say, "Wait, let me finish my thought." Right?
Oh,
And people don't always like that, but the same thing is happening to you, right? You're getting interrupted, and so sometimes we do have to advocate that way. It's not nasty or anything, right? But
mhm.
the finger sort of calls the attention, right? And then it's,
Yeah.
wait, just let me finish my thought, then you can go. Things like that. Angela, one of her comments about women doing this for women. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Uh, Unfortunately, we can get into this scarcity mindset, right? There's only so many women at the top or in this role, and so it's scarce. There's not enough room for all of us, and so women can compete with each other instead
Mhm.
of collaborate and lift each other up. And the more we celebrate each other's success, the more we're going to advance as a whole. And seeing that every time a woman wins, whether it's us or someone else, that is movement forward, and it opens more doors. But we
Mhm.
have to really get out of this scarcity mindset, because as we move forward, there are just as many positions for us.
Yeah.
um, and women
Absolutely.
have to go after them. That's one other point, is that it's like I think sick. Okay, this comes from Hewlett Packard research. Men will apply for a role even if they only meet 60% of the criteria, but
Yeah.
women will wait till they're like 99%, 100% before they apply. So if you're
Mhm.
not advocating for yourself, encouraging each other to do these things and throwing your hat in the ring, you are going to miss out. So you've got to do that part as well. And then
Yeah.
have your allies advocate for you, have them coach you, have them speak up for you when those opportunities arise.
Absolutely. Will was saying, I've noticed sometimes folks aren't always comfortable chiming in a large group. If I know that is true, I like to ask for their feedback in email or chat after and integrate it. I think that's a good idea too.
Mhm.
However, I still think it's good to try to get them to participate in front of a large group because that's going to help them with their
Mhm.
communication skills. But sometimes not everybody wants to talk. So I think those are great options, Will, for those who
Mhm.
don't want to speak out in a large group.
Mhm.
And then we're all imposters. Don't let that stop you. I'm done. I'm not falling for that anymore. Dang it. I had such confidence issues, and I went to this event last week and won an award. And I was so taken back that I wanted it because I've always had a problem with my confidence. And Charlie Matthews, who it was her organization that had the event, empowering women in industry. She
Mhm.
said, "You earned this, so own it. Like you earned it." So
Love
I'm telling everybody to, okay, yes, it's okay to be insecure and everything, but you're here for a reason. So own it and be proud. Hold your shoulders
that.
back.
Mhm.
So I'm
Mhm.
trying to kill that word imposter syndrome. I don't know.
Absolutely. One of the things that I say is that we need to change that word altogether because it's not a syndrome, it's not a disease, it's not a dysfunction. Everybody experiences it at times of
Mhm.
transition, right? And so I like to flip it on its head. And when you're feeling imposter syndrome, be like, oh my God, this is awesome because it means I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm stretching myself. And people go through it during promotions and new
Mhm.
roles and things like that till you get comfortable. It's it's not a dysfunction, it's just a process, right?
Right. And it's good to be uncomfortable with the comfortable because, like you said, you're going through transition phase. And if you're getting too comfortable, that means you're kind of staying
Yeah,
stagnant a little bit. So I agree that Angela said in our WIM Texas meet and greets, we give time to let members celebrate their successes. It's not just networking. That's a really good idea.
that's
And then
awesome.
we want to get comfortable bragging about ourselves. Absolutely. Brag about yourself. I'm all for that.
Oh, yeah. I worked on that a lot with a client, and it was funny because her husband, like, immediately noticed the difference, and it was really cool, right? And so for women in particular who often have trouble bragging about themselves, talking about themselves, and they feel like it's bragging, I tell them, you are so far from bragging right now that if you feel like you're bragging, you're probably in the right place.
So
You know?
I attended an event, and the speaker that was doing the event, they brought up imposter syndrome, and she said, "I want you to take time to look at the people on either side of you and tell them." I am remarkable because, and then give them the reason why you're remarkable. And it was really cool because some people did hesitate. They like kind of were like, I don't know why I'm remarkable. And some people were like, I'm remarkable because I do this, this, and this. And it was cool to like be surrounded by other women who were like, kind of like, I don't know if this is okay or like, but if you change it to that, it demonstrates what your unique skill set is and what you
Mhm.
bring to the table.
Yeah,
And it does, it makes you feel
yeah,
better when you say it out
yeah.
loud.
And if you're really struggling with that, start asking people in your world, what do you see me as, like, my strength? Or what do you and start making a list of it. Keep that list. Sometimes we need that little push, that little lift up if we're really struggling with that.
So I do want to talk about your book because I've I'm so excited because I've been reading a lot more, which is crazy because I tend to not have a lot of time, but on airplanes and stuff, I've been reading on my Kindle. And I
Mhm.
was really excited that you sent me your digital copy of your book. And I'll make sure to drop the link to it on Amazon in the comments section. But it's called Unleash the Wise Leader in You, and it's a guidebook for women leaders.
Yeah.
And I want you to just kind of give us a brief synopsis of what the book is about and what inspired you to write the book. And
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
I'll get into some more questions after that. But what inspired you to write the book? What did you see that was
Yeah.
missing?
Yeah. Well, let me show you. I'm going to have it right here. Shameless plug, but here it is, right? That's what it looks like. Um,
It's your show today, so brag away. Brag away.
there we go, right? That's my bragging. Um, you know what? It's really interesting. What inspired me to write the book was actually the unexpected loss of my sister. And,
Oh,
you know, just kind of an out of the blue thing. She wasn't sick or anything. And I came home from work one day and my brother had called and spoken to my husband and told him that she was gone. Right. And my mom had found her and in her apartment. Right.
I'm so
Um,
sorry.
yeah. Thank you. Uh, all my life, I've taken tragedy and tried to turn it into something positive and make it
Mhm.
meaningful. And I thought about um, kind of like how much the world lost with her not being in it, and all of the gifts and talents and skills she had that she never got the opportunity to really put out into the world. And so I decided to write the book to help other women do that.
Mhm.
And I came up kind of with these 5 principles of wise leadership, and then 5 obstacles they need to overcome. And then there's a section of, how to put it out into the world, 5 places like your home, your community. And so, yeah, it just really, I really wanted to reach out and help women get over those obstacles. And so throughout the book, there are coaching exercises that you can do, and then there's also a workbook where you can do all of that as well. But I wrote it because, and the way I did and the system I created was because how many books do we read? We think they're great, we put it on the shelf, and we don't put it into action, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I incorporated all these things that you can do to really live it and embody that wise leadership. I think that wise leadership is how you show up in the world and showing up consistently as yourself and honoring your values and not holding back, because the world really needs our voices. And so
Mhm.
there's the book, there's the workbook. I also created this affirmation card deck to support you. And
I
there,
love that.
yeah, I can send you one. Those you have to reach out to me personally. They're not on Amazon, but they're kind of neat. I'll just show you.
And the pink and purple. I love it.
Okay. Yes. I'll pick one. I know that there is enough for all is one of them.
I love that. If you
Yeah.
have like a store to get those from, let me know because I know a bunch of women that would love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can put it back up on my website and you can purchase through there.
Please
But
do, because if they don't buy them, I'll buy them for them and send them my stuff.
yeah, I love them. They're because they're just that little moment of affirmation, reinforcement. I like to sometimes just pick one randomly and see what comes up. And
Yeah,
this one, I pave the way for others, right?
that's
Um,
that's awesome.
and the
So
book also has a meditation album. So it's really this wraparound approach to like rewire your brain and enter the information in multiple ways so it really sinks in.
That's really cool. I'm gonna have to blast that out on my channels because, I mean, I've heard all of the key terms that you just used: meditation, affirmation, um, in several talks throughout a whole bunch of events that I've attended, and that's kind of like the whole mecca of it, right? Where you're
Yeah.
taking bits and pieces of it and giving it in this one
Mhm.
product. So I'm going to be promoting that more on LinkedIn and all my social channels. And I'm going to go on Amazon and actually purchase the copy so I can get all that other stuff with it.
Yeah.
But one of the questions that I had for you in terms of like women in leadership, especially in male dominated industries like engineering and manufacturing, do you see like a common theme of what they're struggling with or what their main challenges are? So we talked about imposter syndrome and our confidence level, maybe questioning our skill set. Are there other things that have popped up and have been common across several different
Mhm.
women?
I think one thing is kind of sitting back a little and not taking control of your career, letting other
Mhm.
people determine your path and you just kind of follow where they put you or where, and taking the opportunities that people offer instead of being really proactive and saying this is where I want to go. Um,
Mhm.
so I think that's a piece that's common. I think learning how to interact in the environment to be more seen and more heard, right? I think all people, like at the end of the day, that's kind of the core of what we want is to feel seen
Mhm.
and heard. But we also have to speak up to do that and ask for what we want, and be vocal about what we want, and create those allies to help us. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
So we did talk about emotional intelligence a little bit at the beginning of our conversation. How does that, and maybe you can repeat some of the things that you said, but how does that really help women become wiser leaders, or even men? Like what can,
Yeah.
because you mentioned too that it's kind of naturally innate to women to be more emotional
Mhm.
intelligent or more in tune with it. So what about men? What are some tips that you can provide them to really kind of tap into their emotional intelligence so that they can become better leaders?
Yeah. I think starting in that place of curiosity is really important. You know, how
Hmm.
how did this person take that comment? How do they think? How do they feel? When someone says they are offended, right? Rather than saying you have to get a thicker skin, tell me more about that. What about that offended you? What does that mean to you if I say this?
Hmm.
Observing the body language, because for people who aren't going to speak up, who aren't confident or don't feel, frankly, psychologically safe in the environment, right? You
Hmm.
may really feel like I'm not going to speak up because it's going to become a problem and
Hmm.
because I'll be more left out or more ostracized or make myself more different. Just really being able to observe the body language and what happens, using more empathy, putting
Hmm.
yourself in that other person's shoes. I think that's what happened in that situation I talked about in the room. Just
Hmm.
very different perspectives of not being able to see a different perspective of how a female might take those comments, especially in that environment and being the only female.
Hmm.
So it's those kinds of things, improving self-awareness. The comment, I believe, from Greg about razzing being a defense mechanism, right?
Hmm.
Maybe having some more self-awareness around that. When do I do that? When don't I do that? Who do I do it with? What's really my intention there?
Those are all really good tips. Um, so then for women, you mentioned too before, and I 100% agree with this. And in engineering and manufacturing, we do have this statistic where 1 in 4 leaders are women. And in order for us to achieve the diversity of thought and decision making and innovation, we should have more representation in some of these leadership roles. And there's a theory out there called the broken rung theory. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's like a certain percentage of women who don't get that first promotion end up not getting any sort of kind of promotion.
Okay.
So that's where the importance of like mentorship and sponsorship comes in, because women are 5 times more likely to get promoted and progress through their career if they have a really good mentor. And any company that has a mentorship program, I think the stat was 18% more profitable than average if they had a mentorship program. I'll have to double check that stat. Don't quote me on that. I did have it in a presentation, but the weekend came and then it lost
right. Yeah.
So do you have any like specific tips or suggestions for women on how to really pursue that leadership role? Like, what are some of the things they're not doing, or what are some of the things that they should be doing better, or like how do they pursue that top spot in their company?
Yeah. First, find someone who already has what you want and ask them to mentor you. But first you have to advocate and ask them, but you also have to create a what's in it for them sort of thing as well. And maybe it's just naturally they like to do that. But making it a mutually beneficial and enjoyable relationship, I think is important. And not waiting around for someone to offer, because that's probably not going to happen, unless you have a formal mentorship program. Ask specific questions, be really engaged, follow through on what they ask of you. Those are the give backs, otherwise they're not going to be engaged or interested. Also, like right out of the gates, be vocal about what your career goals are, what you want, apply for those positions, ask the questions, what could I be doing better? What skills am I missing now that I need to get to that role? Really investigate, create those relationships at work that do support you and where you can get those answers. But really, again, I keep using the word curiosity, but ask questions and be vocal.
No, and I think that's a good point though too, because I think one of the things, like when I first started, I didn't know that I could negotiate my salary. So that's something that I'm learning. Like, I didn't know how to do that. The other thing too, a woman that I know, she was talking about, she's like, back in the day, and she's like, it still happens today, a lot of men go golfing, and during those periods of time, they're getting mentored, or they're learning about the business, or they're making connections and they're networking. It's another place to network. And she's like, but women, not a lot of women golfed at the time. Like, I see more and more women doing that now. She's like, but there's opportunities for leadership to really connect with anybody in their company, whether that's taking them out to lunch, going on a walk, doing a golf thing. I suck at golf, but I've tried it, and like I'll be the go-kart driver for sure to get some
Me too. I'll do that.
to get some of those conversations. But she made it a really good point where before, not a lot of women were getting those conversations about learning about the actual business, so they couldn't really talk about it. So hopefully that will shift over as well too. So ask more questions that are business focused, like, what do we need to do to increase our profits? What do we need to do to increase our productivity? If you don't know what the process is, ask what the process is and how it works and how things are set up, why they're set up that way, why it's important to be set up that way, who your competitors are, who your business partners are. Those will really help a woman actually be able to talk about the business to other people and prospect more as well too, I believe. We do have a comment from Jackie that I want to pull up that just came in. She said, I'm a tool and die maker, and I've worked in a male-dominated position my entire career. It's a tough world, but so much fun if you are able to stand up for yourself. Don't be a mouse You have to put yourself out there. That's true. So I agree with that. And I think too, as Angela mentioned before, that women need to do that for other women. I was at an event where they brought in a robotics team from a high school, and there was only one girl on the team, and she had her arms folded, and I was asking questions and the guys were answering, and I was looking directly at her when I was asking the questions, and the guys kept like talking over because they were so excited, and I was like, okay, I want to hear from her though. Like, what do you do? So
Yeah.
I like called her out on it, and she then got comfortable and then started having more of an in-depth conversation with me about her role. So yes, definitely stand up for yourself. But if you're one of those more outrovert type people, personalities, and you see someone like that, pull them into the conversation, because it will help with their confidence, I think.
Yeah, sometimes they're kind of waiting for that opening too. Like you said, she warmed up and then she was engaged. And I see that all the time when I call someone out in a meeting, right? When I say, "Oh," and usually I have a good relationship with them. Like, "Oh, what was that face? I know you want to say
Yeah.
something." And they're kind of like, and then they do it and they become more respected and more a part of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Donna, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you for taking some time to have a conversation with me today on Mavens. Do want to ask you, if you had one ask for our audience, what would your biggest ask be for them?
Well, I'm going to give you more than one, but one, to connect
That's
with
okay.
me on LinkedIn, because I'm a great connector and I like to share my network and I'd love to stay connected. I loved the comments on here. If we've piqued your curiosity, you can go ahead and buy the book. But what I really want from you is gaining the courage to speak up and to support one another, because I want to be part of a movement that is more inclusive in leadership, and that we really truly embody our leadership, show up the same way in the different environments we go to, and really share all our gifts and talents, because I truly believe the world needs them.
I like that. Thank you so much. And we have Greg who said thank you both. Thank you, Greg. I saw your comment
Thanks,
before, and I'm
Greg.
sorry to pull that up. Also, too, you mentioned that you help businesses with succession plans. Is that correct? So
Yes.
and I know there's a lot of companies in engineering and manufacturing who don't have a succession plan, or it might have changed. So anyone that needs help with that, please reach out to Donna. And my phone is ringing. I'm going to hang that up. Live TV, gotta love it. But Donna, again,
scaling and growing your leadership team. Those are the things I really focus on in businesses.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Donna, so much. And to everyone who tuned in, thank you. I hope you have a great and safe weekend. It's rainy here in the Midwest. Hopefully it's sunny where you are. And be sure to please connect with Donna, take a look at her book. And if you have any questions, just let us know. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm going to pull up our sponsorship video from Pro Shop. Be sure to check them out as well, too. Paul is a great guy, and his team is awesome as well. So have a great weekend, everyone. Bye. Without a robust scheduling solution, it's hard to know what you should be working on. Does it feel like every job is a priority? Pro Shop ERP leads the pack with powerful job scheduling that gives you a clear picture of the job pipeline with the flexibility to shift priorities when things change. Get the real-time information you need to make decisions on the fly to keep your jobs on schedule. Scheduling is updated automatically by the factory activity and always shows the latest status. Changes to due dates, quantities, and more are instantly propagated throughout the system and onto the schedule. Put down the fire hose and enjoy the clarity that comes with accurate job scheduling. Enjoy dramatic labor cost savings both in the shop and the office. Head to proshoperp.com/call to learn more. That's proshoperp.com/call.